A massive drug bust at the port of Houston. Officials say they stopped more than 1,000 barrels of chemicals from China headed to a cartel in Mexico.
That's enough to make nearly $500 million worth of meth. A very large drug bust. Fox is
Everything stopped the moment I saw the number. 300,000 kilos. This wasn't some back alley bust or a lucky traffic stop. It was a massive hit that sent shockwaves through the entire drug trade, and the scale is almost unreal. And here's where it gets even wilder. The U.S. straight up announced the largest meth precursor seizure in American history, and the numbers feel almost too big to process. More than 300,000 kilograms of chemical ingredients were intercepted before they could slip into the shadows. That's not a typo. That's industrial weight, the kind of volume you'd expect for a factory complex, not a cartel pipeline. What really shakes you is the target behind it all, the Sinaloa Cartel. One of the most powerful drug organizations on the planet had a shipment this massive heading straight toward its mega labs. You'd imagine how bold you have to be to move something like that. Seriously, what would you have thought if you saw containers packed with that much product?
That you see American bodies, because that's what's happening in China's undeclared war against the United States, working with Mexico, the Sinaloa Cartel, a foreign terrorist organization that is producing these illegal drugs that are killing Americans.
And here's where the whole story snaps into focus. The Port of Houston, one of the busiest, loudest, and most chaotic shipping hubs in the country. Containers roll in non-stop, stacked like metal skyscrapers, each one looking just like the next. So when Homeland Security investigations pulled aside this particular shipment, it wasn't because of some dramatic movie moment. It was instincts, paperwork, and a few tiny details that just didn't sit right. The containers were labeled as legitimate industrial materials, the kind that move through ports by the thousands every day. However, the routing appeared odd, the documentation seemed off, and the declared cargo didn't align with the weight. That's when agents leaned in closer. You know that feeling when something looks normal, but doesn't feel normal? That's exactly how this discovery started. But this part blew my mind. The entire shipment started its journey in China, drifting across the Pacific like any other commercial load. Nothing flashy, nothing suspicious at first glance. Just hundreds of thousands of kilos packed into metal boxes, tucked among millions of others. But the route? That's where everything starts to smell like cartel strategy. The container path was one that authorities have seen before, a pattern frequently used to funnel chemical precursors into drug-producing hotspots. China has long been a major supplier of these ingredients, partly because of its huge industrial output and partly because the chemical trade is so massive that it can hide almost anything in plain sight. It's wild how global these pipelines are. A shipment leaves one continent and quietly feeds chaos in another.
Agents with Homeland Security investigations intercepted the shipment at the port of Houston, containers of benzyl alcohol and N-Methyl.
And just when you think the trail couldn't get more intense, here comes the punchline. All of it was headed straight toward the Sinaloa Cartel's mega labs in Mexico. These aren't small setups. These are industrial drug factories, cranking out meth for the U.S. market at a scale that's honestly terrifying. The chemicals seized weren't random. They were the exact building blocks those labs need to keep production rolling nonstop. And the way the cartel moves them is almost elegant in its simplicity. They hide them inside normal industrial shipments, blending in with legitimate global trade. It's sophisticated, calculated, and incredibly hard to detect. Imagine an operation so big that 300,000 kilos of chemicals is just another supply run. That's the level of organization we're talking about. Cold, efficient, and built to stay invisible. Here's the part that really puts the whole operation into perspective: the chemicals themselves. Agents uncovered 164,880 kilos of benzyl alcohol and 151,560 kilos of N-Methyl Formamide, two substances that, on their own, look like totally normal industrial ingredients. But together, they're the backbone of meth production. These aren't casual quantities either. This is the kind of stockpile you'd expect at a massive manufacturing plant, not a cartel pipeline. When you see numbers like this, you realize just how industrialized the drug trade has become. This isn't backroom chemistry, this is full-scale production, the kind that fuels an entire illegal economy. It's wild to think that something so ordinary looking has the power to unleash something so destructive once it hits the wrong hands.
Labs in Mexico. The bus falls under a new national push to dismantle drug cartels, and it was green-lighted thanks to the federal government.
And this is where your jaw kind of drops. If these chemicals had reached their destination, Sinaloa's labs could have churned out nearly 190,000 kilograms of meth. Let that number sit for a second. That's not a batch. That's enough to flood entire regions of the United States, enough to keep drug markets fed for months. The estimated street value? Around $569 million. Over $500 million of poison stopped before it ever hit the streets. And you can practically imagine the ripple effect. Fewer overdoses, fewer communities gutted, fewer families caught in the fallout of addiction. It's rare that you can measure a single seizure in such a clear, real-world impact. But this one legitimately pulled the brakes on an avalanche. But wait, here's the part most people never see coming. The only reason the U.S. could seize this shipment so cleanly was that the Sinaloa Cartel is now labeled a foreign terrorist organization. That changes everything. Under normal drug laws, the government has to jump through layers of legal hoops. But terrorism forfeiture laws? Those are built for speed and power. Because of that FTO designation, agents weren't just allowed to seize the chemicals. They were empowered to do it aggressively, before the shipment moved, before lawyers got involved, before the cartel had a chance to react. It's a completely different battlefield now. Treating cartels like terrorist organizations gives the U.S. a wider strike zone. And this seizure was the first major swing. And here's where the story really shifts gears. This wasn't just another seizure. It was the first major takedown using terrorism-based authority, a move that completely rewrites the playbook. For decades, cartels were treated like criminal syndicates. Dangerous, yes, but still within the bounds of traditional drug enforcement. Not anymore. Labeling the Sinaloa Cartel as a foreign terrorist organization unlocks a new level of power for U.S. agencies. It means faster action, fewer legal roadblocks, and the ability to strike long before shipments reach cartel hands. This single bust sends a loud message. The U.S. is done playing defense. It's a strategic pivot that opens the door to even bigger international seizures and far more aggressive intervention across borders. And honestly, it feels like the beginning of a whole new phase in the drug war. But to understand how massive this hit truly was, you need to see the web behind it. The Sinaloa Cartel's chemical supply chain isn't some improvised operation. It's a long-standing international pipeline stretching from China to Mexico. For years, cartel brokers have quietly negotiated deals with Chinese suppliers, often using shell companies, fake business names, and front operations to disguise what they're really moving. It's like watching a global shadow economy run parallel to the legitimate one. This seizure cracks that system open. It exposes the level of coordination required to keep a chemical pipeline this large running smoothly. You've got international shipping routes, multiple ports, disguised documentation, and brokers operating on 2 continents. Meth production isn't local, it's global, and this bust finally dragged that hidden network into the light. And here's the part that really hits the cartel where it hurts. Losing over 300,000 kilos of precursors doesn't just sting, it stops entire production cycles dead in their tracks. Sinaloa's megalabs run like industrial factories, built for non-stop output. When a shipment this size disappears, every chemist, every lab manager, every logistics guy suddenly has a massive problem on their hands. Short term, it means fewer batches, fewer shipments, and a noticeable slowdown in meth flowing north. Long term, it forces the cartel to scramble for new supply routes, new brokers, new chemical sources, all under pressure. Think about it. One hit creates a chain reaction that ripples through their entire operation. It's rare for law enforcement to land a punch that big, but this one absolutely rattled their production machine. And here's the strategic piece most people overlook. The U.S. isn't just going after finished meth anymore. They're going after the ingredients. Cartels can rebuild labs in days. Blow one up, and another pops up in the hills or deep in the desert. But chemicals? Those are different. You can't cook meth without the building blocks, and sourcing them at scale is harder than replacing a torn-down lab. That's why this approach hits deeper. Cutting off precursor shipments is like shutting down the power grid instead of chasing individual light bulbs. You don't fight the drug wave at the end of the pipeline, you choke it at the start. This seizure isn't an isolated win. It's part of a broader strategy designed to starve the cartel's entire production chain before the drugs even exist.
Tons of chemicals that are used to create synthetic drugs like methamphetamine and fentanyl are shipped from China to Mexico. in China's undeclared war against America and her citizens.
When the news dropped, officials didn't hold back. The U.S. Attorney's Office framed it as not just big, but historic, the kind of seizure you only see once in a generation. They kept hammering the scale, hundreds of thousands of kilos, a direct blow to one of the world's most dangerous cartels. HSI took a different angle, emphasizing the timing. They stressed that this wasn't about grabbing drugs off the street, it was about preventing those drugs from ever reaching the public. They made it clear, disrupting the supply chain saves lives long before the product lands in American neighborhoods. Across every statement, one message kept repeating, this is what works. Not reactive policing, not cleaning up after the damage is done, but cutting off the oxygen to the cartel machine before it ever reaches the fire. But this isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of a new phase. After a seizure, this massive, expect more operations aimed at bulk chemical shipments, the kind that feed cartel megalabs for months. The U.S. knows where the pipeline starts and they're aiming straight at the front door. The challenge? Cooperation with China is complicated. Regulations, enforcement gaps, and political tension make precursor control a constant uphill climb. If China tightens, cartels will adapt, maybe shift sourcing to India, which already plays a growing role in global chemical trade. Or they might start synthesizing precursors domestically, building the chemicals themselves instead of importing them. Either way, the battle moves upstream now. The long war won't be fought in alleys or stash houses. It'll be fought in shipping lanes, ports, and chemical markets. In the end, one shipment changed the battlefield. 300,000 kilos stopped, megalabs stalled, and a cartel forced to regroup. If this is the new strategy, the drug war's front line just moved worldwide. What's your take on this shift? Drop a comment, hit like, and stick around. More coming soon.